Hey everybody, this is Jim at SP500chart.com. It's Sunday afternoon. I'm actually doing this before the futures are opening. I think I'm going to hold on to it till I see what happens, but we're just going to read the chart and ignore the futures to start with. To start with, I need to remind you that the website and the video are for educational purposes only. Nothing stated at the site or in the video is intended to be used as investment advice. I control lines on charts, but you have to draw your own conclusions from your own research and make investment decisions that are suitable for your personal financial situation. I'm not a licensed financial professional. I'm just a guy who draws lines on charts. So let's take a look. Well, we now know in retrospect that this little dip underneath this line was a break in the process of happening, but it just wasn't enough of a break to really tell us that what it was until we gapped down on Friday and continued to move down for most of the day, having made the lows of the day a little bit after lunch Eastern time, and then another little quick trip down to that same area just before the close. I am putting a bunch of new lines on the chart, but they're all very, very light in color. And the reason is because they may be totally wrong. First, we did find what appears to be maybe some support at this 2820 level. If we back out on a daily chart, you'll see that 2820 line actually goes all the way back to that inverted head and shoulders pattern that formed in the latter half of 2018 and broke out in the spring of 2019. We extend that line all the way over here, and dare I say, and also it's worth noting that we found support at that line back in summer of 2019 as well. Let me see that. I had to say that again. Before we made that move up to the all-time highs before coronavirus hit and just walloped the markets. If you look at just sort of what's going on here, and you can see I've been feverishly trying to figure it out. There you see just that swift move and then a pretty swift recovery that has gotten back a good portion of what was lost. So on a 15-minute chart, you can see we were looking at a narrow channel right here, and I've been looking at a couple different things. We got a number of things to consider here. One, we were thinking that this might have been resistance and that this might have been support. That broke. Then we went to a new high before this broke. And now we got a couple things just worth considering. One, if this is a legitimately good trend line, this light green line down here is the parallel line to that. And I've got it going back to the lows before this new channel really got started going here, whatever that channel might be. But I'm going back to early April and extending that forward, and it just so happens to line up with where we about where we closed on Friday. Additionally, I looked at the chart since the second week of April, and I see we have a number of little peaks here that are going at a much less aggressive clip. So I threw that line up there. I said, well, what happens if I make a parallel line to that and see if anything lines up there? Well, that's what that line is, and that may be something also. Again, neither this nor this can really be confirmed until we get a big bounce off of one of these two lines. So this is total 100% conjecture. The other thing that I want to point out is the simple fact that where we got back to on Friday, with that day in which the markets lost close to 3%, takes us back to where we were at the close of the previous week. That actually makes for something of an ugly candle. It makes it look like maybe a small shooting star. So I think we should be on the lookout that possibly we start off tomorrow on the 4th, possibly with some selling pressure. But remember, candlestick patterns require a second candle in the same time frame as the one that you're inspecting. So that means that that really wouldn't be a shooting star unless we finish this week with losses. So we got a couple of different potential trend lines. This extended trend line, and it's been that 2820 level has been technically significant in the past. And the other thing I wanted to mention is if you just sort of look at the 2.5 weeks or so that we traded from the second week of April, really pretty much through until the beginning of March, everything is sort of in this zone that we've returned to. As a matter of fact, we're almost, not quite, but if we come down just a little further, we'll be right in the meat of that consolidation area. So that's another reason why we might find some support. But again, this coronavirus thing seems to be ruling the day. And I just, I'm just not going to try to second guess every little move here, because we're seeing things happen based upon conjecture, based upon fear. Certainly not a lot of rational, I don't think there's a lot of rational thought going on right now. At least not in the message boards and things where I'm spending some time. There's some crazy stuff going on. People thinking there's still going to be 2 million Americans pass away from this. That is not going to happen. And finally, I just want to say one thing about the coronavirus thing, just to remind you. There was actually a man in not Philadelphia, but in Pennsylvania. I don't know where in Pennsylvania. A man in Pennsylvania was working on a ladder. He fell from the ladder, had a traumatic head injury. He died from his traumatic head injury. But before he died, or after he died, I'm not sure when, they did a coronavirus test, and they found out he tested positive for coronavirus. Guess what's on his death certificate? He died of the coronavirus. So that's going on a lot, guys. Sadly, people living on the streets dying of heroin overdoses. They take them in, they test them for COVID-19. If they have COVID-19, then they put on the death certificate COVID-19. Why do they do that? Well, because the federal government will pay the hospital free money for anybody who's not insured who dies of COVID-19. Anybody they treat for COVID-19, there's free money for the hospital, whether or not, if the patient does not have any insurance. So you take people off the street who are dying of drug overdoses, they go into the hospital says, well, they're dead, but quick, give them a COVID-19 test, because if they test positive, we'll collect $19,000 from the federal government. Just something for you to keep in mind. And do your own research. Don't take my word for it, but I'm pretty sure this is actually happening. So anyway, hey, look, thanks for taking time out of your weekend to watch this. And as always, thanks for your very, very kind support and for listening to my rambling. Anyway, take care.